I'm Lila, and a few months ago, I moved into an apartment that seemed like a dream come true. It was a small, cozy place on the edge of a quiet town called Ashwood, tucked into a weathered brick building with ivy crawling up the walls. I'd just gotten out of a messy relationship, and all I wanted was a fresh start, somewhere affordable, safe, and mine. The landlord, Mrs. Clara Hensley, sealed the deal. She was a plump, grey-haired woman with a warm smile and a knack for storytelling, showing me around with pride in her eyes. "It's not fancy," she said, handing me the keys, "but it's homey. Call me if you need anything, dear." I thought I'd hit the jackpot. Little did I know, I'd stepped into a nightmare. The first few weeks were bliss. I'd come home from my barista job at the corner cafe, kick off my shoes, and sink into the worn leather couch with a cup of tea. The apartment smelled faintly of old wood and lavender. Thanks to the sachets Clara had left behind, the walls were thin, and I'd hear the occasional creak from upstairs where she lived, but it didn't bother me. I'd unpack boxes, hang cheap fairy lights around the windows, and play soft music to fill the silence. For once, I felt like I was building something new. Then things started to shift. It was subtle at first, small enough to brush off as my imagination running wild. One evening, I came home to find my favorite mug, a chipped blue thing with daisies, sitting on the kitchen counter instead of the sink where I'd left it. I frowned, running my fingers over its handle, wondering if I'd been too tired to remember washing it. A few days later, my sketchbook, usually tucked on the coffee table, was open on the couch, flipped to a half-finished drawing of a forest I'd been working on. A cold shiver ran through me, but I shook it off. "You're just stressed, Lila," I muttered to myself, closing the book with a snap. But the unease grew. One night, I was sprawled on the couch, watching a cheesy rom-com, when a faint scratching sound came from the bedroom. My heart skipped a beat. I muted the TV, straining to listen, the remote clutched tight in my sweaty palm. The scratching stopped, then started again, slow, deliberate, like nails dragging across wood. I grabbed a kitchen knife, my breath shallow, and tiptoed to the bedroom. The door creaked as I pushed it open, revealing nothing but shadows dancing on the walls from the streetlights outside. The window was locked, the room empty. I let out a shaky laugh, feeling foolish, but sleep didn't come easy that night. The weirdness piled up. My purple scarf vanished from the coat rack, only to turn up a week later, tangled in a ball under the bathroom sink. A pair of earrings I'd left on my dresser ended up in the living room, glinting under the couch like they'd been tossed there. I started double-checking the locks every night, my fingers fumbling with the deadbolt as a cold prickle ran down my spine. Someone, or something, was messing with me, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. I decided to talk to Clara. The next morning, I climbed the creaky stairs to her apartment, my pulse quickening with each step. She answered the door in a floral apron, flour dusting her hands from baking. "Lila, dear, come in. Have a cookie," she chirped, ushering me to a cluttered kitchen table. I forced a smile, declining the cookie, and explained the strange occurrences: mugs moving, earrings misplaced, the scratching. Her face clouded over, her hands twisting the apron. "Oh, that's odd," she said, her voice tight. "I'll have the locks checked, don't you worry." But her eyes darted away, and I caught a flicker of something, guilt maybe, before she shooed me out with a promise to handle it. The locks were changed, but the disturbances didn't stop. One morning, I woke to find my bedside drawer yanked open, its contents, letters, a journal, a few photos scattered across the floor. My breath hitched as I knelt to gather them, my hands trembling. Whoever did this had been in here while I slept, inches from my bed. The thought sent a wave of dread through my chest, a sickening nausea rising in my throat. I couldn't stay passive anymore. I ordered a small motion-activated camera online, the kind you hide in plain sight. I set it up on a shelf in my bedroom, disguised among some books, and waited. The footage came the next night. I'd fallen asleep with the lights off, the hum of the fridge lulling me into a fitful dream. Around 2 a.m., my phone pinged an alert, jolting me from my groggy haze. Half asleep, I opened the app, and my blood froze in my veins. There, in grainy black and white, was a man creeping through my bedroom. He was tall and wiry, his face half hidden by a baseball cap, but I could see his hands, pale, long-fingered, rummaging through my dresser. He picked up the necklace I'd worn that day, pressing it to his nose as if inhaling my scent. A wave of icy dread flooded my chest as he stepped to the bed, standing there gazing down at me for a long moment, his head tilted like he was studying every line of my face. Then he slipped away, silent as a ghost. I didn't scream. I couldn't. I sat there, paralyzed, my heart hammering so hard it hurt. Who was he? How did he get in? I called the police, my voice a shaky whisper as I played the footage for them. 2 officers arrived an hour later, their boots thumping on the hardwood floor. They watched the video, faces grim, and asked if I'd noticed anyone suspicious. "He's got a key," one said, pointing to the lack of forced entry. "Could be a former tenant, or someone close to the building." My mind flashed to Clara's son. She'd mentioned him once, casually, during that first tour. "My boy, Evan, lives with me sometimes," she'd said, waving a hand. "He's a quiet one, always off working odd jobs." I'd never seen him, but now a chilling suspicion took root. I stormed upstairs, the camera still clutched in my hand, and banged on Clara's door. She opened it, her smile faltering when she saw my face. "Lila, what's wrong?" she asked, stepping back. "Someone's been in my apartment," I snapped, shoving the phone at her. "Look at this." She watched the video, her eyes widening, then filling with tears. "Oh, dear God," she whispered, sinking into a chair. "That's Evan." "Evan?" I demanded, my voice rising. "Your son? He's been breaking in?" She wrung her hands, her voice trembling. "He's troubled. He's had issues since he was a boy. Obsessions, strange habits. I thought he was away, working. I swear I didn't know." Her words tumbled out, desperate, but I didn't care. I was furious, terrified. "He has a key, doesn't he?" I pressed. She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I keep a spare upstairs. He must have taken it." I didn't wait for more excuses. I went back downstairs, locked the door, and started packing. I couldn't stay, not with Evan lurking, not with his hands on my things, his shadow over my bed. My hands shook as I stuffed clothes into a duffel bag, my mind racing with every creak of the building. Then I heard it, a soft tap on the door. I froze, bag slipping from my grip. Another tap, louder this time. "Lila?" A voice called, low and smooth. "It's Evan. Can we talk?" My blood ran cold. I grabbed a kitchen knife, my palms slick with sweat, and crept to the peephole. There he was, tall, gaunt, with sunken eyes and a crooked smile that didn't reach them. His cap was pulled low, just like in the video. "I heard you're leaving," he said, his tone oddly cheerful. "That's a shame. I liked having you around." "Get away from my door," I shouted, my voice cracking. "I've called the cops." His smile faded, replaced by a wounded look. "Why so harsh? I just wanted to be friends. You're special, Lila." He leaned closer, his breath fogging the peephole. "I've been watching out for you." I stumbled back, the knife trembling in my hand. "Leave, or I'll scream," I warned. He lingered a moment, then chuckled, a dry, hollow sound, and walked away, his footsteps fading down the hall. I didn't breathe until I heard the upstairs door slam. I didn't sleep that night. I sat against the wall, knife in my lap, jumping at every sound. By dawn, I'd loaded my car and peeled out of Ashwood, my heart pounding as I watched the building shrink in my rearview mirror. But as I turned onto the highway, I saw it, a beat-up grey sedan trailing me, too close for comfort. My hands tightened on the wheel. In the dim morning light, I caught a glimpse of the driver, Evan, his cap low, his eyes locked on me. Panic surged through me. I floored the gas, weaving through traffic, my breath ragged. The sedan kept pace, its engine growling behind me. I didn't stop until I reached a police station 20 miles away, pulling into the lot with tires screeching. The sedan slowed, then sped past, vanishing around a bend. I sat there, shaking, tears blurring my vision, until an officer tapped on my window. They took my statement, promised to look into it, but Evan was gone. I moved in with a friend after that, far from Ashwood, but the fear didn't leave. I'd wake gasping from nightmares, his face over my bed, his voice whispering my name. Once, I found a crumpled note in my mailbox, no stamp, just 2 words in shaky scrawl. "Come back." I burned it, my hands trembling, but the smell of smoke couldn't erase the chill in my bones. I don't know where Evan is now, but I feel him sometimes, a shadow at the edge of my vision, a whisper in the dark. That apartment was supposed to be my fresh start. Instead, it became the place I'll never escape.